All right, we're back with the Zack Snyder-a-thon, although, as mentioned, this is more, you know, just scraping a bit the bottom in this case because Zacharias, he was not really involved with this directly. He did what, it was partially involved with the screenplay, and if I remember correctly, was one of the producer, but the director in this case is a guy called Noah Mamuro, which only had one movie under his belt before this called Smart People, which I haven't seen. And after this, he did the Netflix version of Watership Down, which many consider very meh compared to the original version. So there's not that much ground to to go through. But that begs the question: what is this movie, 300: Rise of an Empire, released in 2014? It's based on a comic that Frank Miller was trying to make based still on the 300, series they did, called Xerxes, starring, of course, the Persian leader that was shown in the previous movie, and it's all over the place in terms of time placement. You know how Borderlands marketed its first major title, not the number one, first major title as the pre-sequel, because it basically, bridges continuity with a lot of things. It's kind of the same thing here. We're basically going to start with the end of the first movie and then move all over the timeline, as in before the events of a movie, do the first movie, during it, after it. It's kind of all over the place, but you'll be able to see for yourself. Worth noting is that when it comes to returning actors, it's just when it comes to archive footage from the first movie. So technically speaking, every time you see Gerald Butler or anyone else, aside from Xerxes himself,
and Leonidas' wife,
Lena Headey, yeah.
It's basically just the stock footage from the first movie. Otherwise, outside from the mentions that we did talk about, it involves basically new people, new blood. So let's start properly. You have a black screen with a few seconds, one or two tops, before the quote-unquote custom Warner Bros. Logo, before, it starts with the door opening. So let's start in 3, 2, 1, click.
Should note also, David Wenham also did return as Dilios.
Isn't that also archive footage?
Nope. According to the cast listing, only Gerard Butler is the one using... Well, okay, no. Gerard Butler and Michael Fassbender are the only two returning forces that use archive footage. Everyone else that returns is actually here.
It says here on the development on the wiki page that Zack Snyder was originally interested in directing this sequel, but he instead chose to direct Man of Steel.
I mean, we do know that he kind of had his hands tied with that movie.
True, like Man of Steel is a movie with its own long and drawn-out development.
Like I mentioned, we start with close to the end of the first movie with all the 300 Spartans already dead at the Thermopilis, and with Xerxes.
Also, this movie had a composer change as well. Because of what happened with Tyler Bate and the plagiarism controversy, we got a new composer this time, Junkie XL.
Oh, so this was his first time working in a Zack Snyder project. Because despite not directing, he's still the producer and he co-wrote the script.
I'm still not sure about the. I don't remember if I mentioned during the first movie commentary, but I still don't understand the casting of a Brazilian guy, Rodrigo Santoro, for Xerxes.
I mean, I guess they just thought he looked good and worked for the role.
I guess it was before the time, there was much awareness in terms of, representation.
Well, I guess I'll give Noah Muro this. At the very least, he seems like he's trying to continue the visual flair of the first movie, at least.
Yeah, no, from what I can recall, I don't recall this movie getting outright hatred from the fan base. If anything,
it just happened. From what I heard, it's just a case where, it happened, people were okay with it, and then moved on. But to be fair, many people seen this movie because with a budget of 110 million, it grossed 337.6. So yes, still a success.
It's a sense of like father, like son. Like the previous movie, it got mixed reception. Critics praised and critiqued it for things, but it was overall still a box office success. Critics apparently praised it for the action sequences, the music, cinematography, visual effects. That does seem rudimentary for a Snyder project. and apparently Green's performance, but they criticized the story and over-stylized gore. Again, also kind of standard of a Snyder process when you think about it. Well, Snyder when he is going on full on with the gore anyway.
That being said, I really haven't seen this when it came in theaters. I only seen it, I think, in 2016. But if I had to be honest, I forgot a lot of it. So it might as well be just a refreshing bit for me.
And here's the slow motion.
Yeah, gonna need it.
I can imagine Zach was in the editing room behind though. I'm saying, no, we got to do it slower.
I do wonder, was it Zach who pushed for Noam to be the director? Because again, this guy had almost little to no experience with a movie that he did in 2008, 6 years before this one, and that I don't even know if many people went to see. So
maybe he's a personal friend of Zach. I don't know. Let me see.
Or maybe he wanted to encourage fresh blood, try to launch his career, I guess.
I guess that's possible.
So
Remember, when he took over the DC universe, he did invest in in a lot of what are at the time, relatively unknown people.
So I'm guessing Queen Gorga will be our narrator for this movie.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine, considering she's one of the few survivors of a previous movie, I can imagine.
Lena Headey tapping into her inner Game of Thrones survival skills.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have to be honest, well, the CGI blood is a bit weak so far. Like, it's very noticeable.
I saw this, I should mention, this is the first time I've seen this movie since I saw it in cinemas, in 3D even.
So, 10 years ago,
when you watch it in 3D, did you feel the blood being plastered all over your face?
I remember the blood looking really fake.
Like now, that's what I noticed. Compared to the first movie, it's kind of a downgrade.
If this was
Neil fucking Breen has better blood effects than you do, you have a problem.
If this were one of those gimmick 4DX or Screen X theaters, they probably would have splashed water on the audience's faces when the blood flies at the screen.
And God knows if they still tries Velovision.
Like, I would
just think. Sorry.
Could you imagine if they colored the water red to make it look like blood?
Which is weird. Like, didn't this one have a bigger budget than the previous movie? Yes, it did.
It came out 7 years later.
Well, this was 2014, the same period where Warner Bros. Was finally
even the horse, man. Even the horse is getting in on the action.
To be fair, it kind of does resemble the contrast shot that Frank Miller will do. This was 2014, the same bunch of years where Warner Bros. Was finalizing the Hobbit movies. Which also had a similar problem of overuse the CGI.
I see.
Just think about this for a moment. Neil Breen has better blood effects than this $110 million movie.
Damn.
So, are we in the future or the past with this one?
Yes.
Do we know?
Sorry, Jova. This is a Frank Miller story, meaning the time scale is all over the place and impossible to comprehend.
To properly answer, the narration did mention that in this case it was the Athenians against King Darius. So when it comes to the Persian wars, Jova, the Greeks fought the Persians a bunch of times, not just in the case of the Thermopilis.
But if we're doing with Darius right now, then this is in the past because Xerxes is Darius' son.
Yes.
I mean,
like I said, this is a bit all over the place when it comes to the timeline.
So this is discount Leonidas here.
Well, Leonidas' predecessor, essentially.
Yeah.
Chell Silverstein, what are you doing here?
I mean, fake blood aside, I'll say that at the very least, this guy is doing a good enough job impersonating Zack Snyder, at least.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, honestly, this movie definitely feels like a living comic book.
No!
Get down, Mr. My king!
Oh
Look at how cool the arrow is.
Oh my god, Dwibs. Nothing has changed in 10 years. Basically, guys, Rebel Moon Part 1 has a no slow motion moment as well. Nothing has changed in 10 years, Whips.
Hey, Dad!
I mean,
Considering the
different
gore, this is
directors,
surprisingly
but
straight.
I wonder if
You
that's...
would think the arrow will like trepass his eyes.
I wonder if that's the idea, you know, like, well, for all the goriness, it's a simple strike that takes out the king, and yes, that's Xerxes, who's later gonna go on to become bald, I guess. Well, then
And with
again...
a lot more piercing.
You were saying, Whips?
I mean, the directors are different, but yeah.
Well, to be fair, I can understand why they would want to keep the style similar, since, hey, you know, don't mess with the formula.
Not to mention, Whips, yes, he's not directing, but he still co-wrote the script. So he wrote in the script. He runs yelling no. So that moment was still dictated by him.
I forgot if I mentioned that in the first movie commentary, but again, if you don't know much about the actual historical events, because let's face it, Frank Miller is not exactly subtle about talking about it. The big deal with the Greco-Persian Wars was the fact that the Persian Empire was a civilization that was centuries old, very old when it comes to its existence.
So now we got Eva Green.
But yeah, this is Artemisia. Again, another real-life figure. This one specifically...
No, Jova, this is an American movie. We can call her Ultimecia.
Please, God, no. But yeah, no, this is Artemisia for... Wait, hold on. You're telling me that's where the idea for naming Artemisia came from?
Well, that's because a couple of figures in history, you know, were called Artemisia, and a bunch of them were actually accused of witchcraft. So yes.
Cute. But yeah, no, like, this is Artemisia the First of Caria, essentially. Real-life badass queen of the ancient Greek city-state of Halicarnassus. Yeah, for those who don't know, in that ancient time, yes, you had rulers of even the cities and states, essentially, as opposed to the entire countries and whatnot.
Greece was a bit more fragmented than, you know, while it still was united as a nation against the Persians, it still was fragmented. The big players were Thebes, Athene, and Sparta, of course, but there were other, you know, small places like Crete or Halicarnassus. But again, the big deal was that the Persian Empire, despite being super big with a lot of resources and the mightiest army in the world, they kept, you know, trying to invade this small country of Greece and never managed to put much of a dent into it. So that's usually what the historical appeal is. The problem is that, as you can imagine, with Frank Miller's usual bias towards people of the Middle East, much like with the first movie, you can imagine that this is not particularly subtle, you know, towards the Persian Empire.
I can tell that this is basically Zack Snyder's equivalent of Devil. Like, yeah, he didn't direct this, but his fingerprints are all over it.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe sending him out in the desert maybe made him a little too crazy.
It's supposed to clearly be a parallel to Leonidas' passage, or rite of passage, although in this case he's treated more in a mystical way because, again, Leonidas managed to become a man thanks to his own volition, while in here, Xerxes supposedly became, you know, divine king by divine right.
The magic in that water is so powerful. He had a shave and a massive haircut.
I noticed also the green screen.
I assume the idea is that some time has passed because we know by the end of 300 that he's not really a god. He's kind of a fraud.
It's more the case where the way it's presented is clearly, you know, trying to mimic the aspect of a comic book. You know, even if the passage of time is present, there's a continuation imposed from shot to shot.
So basically,
go.
Basically, Artemisia is like, well, I can't really trust anyone else to do this properly, so just to make extra safe, she kills all the other allies, essentially, so that she can more or less control him.
Wonderful world of politics. But yeah, I noticed also before, Jesus Christ, the blood in the movie really sucks.
Okay.
What happened?
Okay. My guess, they're going for a stylized take because I refuse to believe that with a higher budget, they somehow could not make better looking blood, essentially. So my best guess is they're going for a hyper stylized take, or shoot, God forbid, do you think they were actually making the blood more stylized to flow with 3D?
I don't know.
It
It worked just fine with the first movie, if you ask me.
Yeah, exactly. The blood in the first movie looked fine, and again, the blood in this movie looks really out of place with everything else.
Okay, then in my guess, my best guess is they wanted to go for a more stylized take to make it pop. Assuming they were being experimental in that regard.
I get the feeling it's much more simple, Joe, but this director didn't really have the experience necessary to make the movie look as pristine as the original did.
I will also say, despite a bunch of at least 6 years, roughly, if I recall correctly, passing since the first movie, and the actors probably having aged, they did a good job despite maintaining the appearance, despite everything.
Yeah, keep in mind, this was before... Yeah, keep in mind, this was before, like, age-decreasing graphics were really as well used as they are now. This is madness. This is politics. I'll admit, assuming this is all what Frank Miller had in mind, it is interesting how he does, in this story, humanize her. She's more to at least see where he's coming from and how he got to this point. Not to say Frank Miller is never capable of that. He is capable of that. It's just, well, assuming this was more towards older Frank Miller...
I don't really think so, Joe. Especially considering, again, for all we know, it's more of a case where they just got the script of what he was supposed to do, and they just, adapted what they could.
Well, that's why I say, assuming this is what Frank Miller had in mind. Because,
and like I said, the first movie was not particularly flattering to the Persians anyway, so it's not really a case where this sort of material was very, gentle.
Well, that's why I'm humoring the idea that maybe for the sequel, what Miller planned was to show that other side. Again, if this movie is anything to go off of, and assuming that that's what was in his script.
I can see that. I can imagine this visual style of these two movies working well in the Olympus Saga God of War show that's being made.
Well, it's kind of funny because it's. Instead, some of the God of War games that were done around this time instead took influence from 300, particularly Chain of Olympus, which starts with a battle against the Persians, with Kratos killing the Persian king, although it's not Xerxes, and God of War 3 having a blatant, special attack that mimics the Spartan formation.
Oh yeah, don't worry, miss. You can find that messenger. He's just down a dark hole.
My God, that's CGI Panther too.
Okay. I think I get it.
Couldn't you train a panther and have it be there?
What does that? I'm pretty sure there were CGI animals in the first movie too, but I think they were done better.
Okay.
Again, Zack Snyder not being in the director's chair does show. Go on, Joe.
I think it's two things. One, like Pedro said, Zack Snyder not being in the director's chair, because for as much flack as we do throw at Snyder, he primarily does not miss with his visuals. And when he does miss with his visuals, he's at least staying, true to the overall idea of the visuals. The second thing is, this is a movie made in 2014, so I do recall this was a time where CGI was definitely seeing a lot more heavy use. Basically, after Avatar, the 2009 flick, came out, the virtues of CGI really were showcased. But if there's one thing I do recall from the 2010s, it's that after Avatar, we were definitely seeing a lot more CGI in movies. And,
And like I said, this is Warner Bros., so they were doing it around the same time with the Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah. Hell, in that very same year, 2009. I mean, like Roland Emmerich released his 2012 movie. Like, and that movie has a horrendous CGI. It's like I'm watching a cartoon, for fuck's sake.
It's like, this is a reason why eventually we later would see a backlash to CGI, which, isn't entirely fair, but I do get why there was a backlash to CGI. It got overused, and, well, even though it didn't always look bad, it got to a point where the minute CGI came into the equation, you knew stuff was fake, which...
I think I've talked to this before about this, but to me, the golden age of movie special effects was the mid to late 90s. Why? Because that was back when they were using CGI for moments, for stuff where CGI was definitely required, while still maintaining practical effects for everything that didn't require CGI. It felt like for example, look at Titanic, for example.
Yeah,
right?
oh, that's a visual showcase.
I don't like that movie, but it's technically proficient.
Which is funny because around the same years we got stuff like Spawn, which instead had horrible CGI.
Well, yeah, obviously there were still bad effects in that period still, of course. There's no such thing as a perfect period for anything. But overall, that was back when filmmakers were using CGI, but only when necessary. And because CGI was still not, to the level that it is today, they couldn't, even if they wanted to, use only CGI, obviously, right? But so it was clearly one of those cases where the limitations definitely made developers, use CGI sparingly and only when needed.
Sorry, go on.
I think what really helped the two come together was that, CGI stuff, that let directors do certain wild stuff. But to match up with that stuff, they had to bump up the practical effects, which in turn made them spectacular. Like, you mentioned Titanic. Another example is also Mask of Zorro, too, which has immense explosions, but wielded that in with great practical effects for the action scenes.
She said the line.
She said the line.
She said the line, everybody.
We go home now. And all right, let's check out with our cast. Themistocles here is played by Australian actor Sullivan Stapleton, which before this movie did a bunch of movies that I don't recognize, like something called Darkness Falls, The Condemned, Animal Kingdom. And after this, he also did a bunch of movies that I don't recognize, like Renegades and A Sunburned Christmas. Even on TV, I don't really notice anything. Like, his resume is still, very meaty, but I get the idea before and after this, he stick to his country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm seeing here, it even says here on the Wikipedia page that, this was the first film in an ongoing partnership with Snyder for Tom Wilkenborg.
So if I recall correctly, this is actually around that time where Leonidas is consulting with the oracles in the original movie.
So conveniently, they could not show him until the stock footage may be convenient.
I see. So this is a movie that basically happens before, after, and during the original.
Like I said, it's all over the place when it comes to the time.
Also, with how much the blood flies at the screen, I am definitely willing to bet that they did make that with 3D in mind.
Probably.
Oh, I can definitely imagine that they made this a 3D in mind, because remember, because of Avatar's success, this was back in the period where 3D was at its peak in popularity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember the original 300 having this much vulgar dialogue.
Which is weird, because it was written by the same people.
I think I recall 300 having some vulgar dialogue.
I mean, Dwebs, you and I know that Zack Snyder is not exactly, a good writer.
Like, I'd say he's capable of good writing, but he needs to be in his wheelhouse. Oh dear.
All right, so the screenplay was written by Zack Snyder and Kurt Johnstad. Let's see what else he wrote.
I will say this, that Eva Green...
Yeah, it is.
There you go.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, right here. There's both this and the original 300 were written by the same two writers. So it's literally the same two writers.
Because she's evil.
Because she's evil.
Like, I normally simp for this kind of woman, but even I wouldn't do that.
Oh,
3D.
yes. These shots definitely feel like 3D shots. Like, I will be legit shocked if they were not making those with 3D in mind. But that said, I do see what critics do mean. Like, Eva Green's performance does seem quite enjoyable so far.
Oh, and get this, there's Kurt Johnstad returned to write the Rebel Moon movies with him. So, there's that.
Like, okay, some hokiness aside, I don't mind the writing in this movie so far. Mind you,
I don't necessarily mind it either. This is just incredibly over the top and unsubtle and on the nose. But again, it's 300. I expect this.
Yeah, like
with Rebel Moon, it feels way more out of place because Rebel Moon is trying to be a space opera a la Star Wars. So it doesn't feel as in place as in this movie.
It's sort of a magic trick of mine where I can tell whether you're lying or not by looking at your hands.
Oh, magic tricks. That reminds me, Eva, are you still sour for your role as the leader witch in the Golden Compass, not going anywhere?
Good lord. It's funny, since she's now working for the company that at this time I believe owned the Lord of the Rings rights.
Well, we got a spy in our midst.
Yeah, I also noticed, compared to the first movie, also the lighting wow. The lighting effects are also more prevalent here. Or in the first battle and also here. Like, jeez.
For a moment there, I thought they were going to pull a TMNT free and have him...
Yeah, I know, right? The shockwave was actually, going into the water looked very bad.
Like, yeah, no. I'm definitely chalking this up to the overuses of CGI, but not having Snyder at the helm. Like, shoot, I think even Sucker Punch, which was a terrible movie, at least used its visuals better.
Oh no, like, for as much as I'll make fun of him, I will not. If there's one thing I will not accuse Zack Snyder of being, is lazy. I will concede that.
Also, who invited Jesse Eisenberg here?
I don't know. It kind of looks like an older version of Tom Holland.
So discount. God, now I'm fumbling my words.
Discount Leonidas.
No. That kid there. Discount Jesse Eisenberg with a ingy-bitchy twinge of Tom Holland thrown in there for good measure. That reminds me, I have to get around to showing Deji the Now You See Me movies.
Yeah, definitely inspired by a Frank Miller product, going to show the kid witnessing the raping and killing of her parents.
Wow, it's like in Rebel Moon. He reused this thing for Rebel Moon as well.
That said, kudos to that.
I get it's the same writers, but damn.
Also, kudos to that girl putting on an over sad face. Holy cow! What did they tell her? Her puppy died.
They're torturing her favorite plushie in the behind the camera.
Also, he literally gave that kid a boot to the head.
I'm not sure I like where this is going.
Oh, they left her for dead.
Oh.
Well, yeah, but you can kind of imagine still what happened to her.
Yeah.
That said, this is...
You spoke about a Golden Compass earlier, Joe, but this girl, she kind of reminds me of the girl from the girl protagonist from Golden Compass. Actually, her face is kind of very similar.
Which is funny because she grows up to be the woman from Golden Compass.
Let me see who plays.
Is that the messenger from the last movie?
This is 14-year-old Artemisia, right?
Yeah, so that's basically how she came to resent everyone.
Yeah, Jade. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She did Oh, she was in Glee. This was actually her debut. Actually, okay. So this movie was her.
It is
debut.
yeah, this is the same guy. I looked it up. Peter Mensa. He's the guy who's the person messenger, and he's also training. He's also training her at the minute. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's all connected.
Well, we know where he ends
His next
up.
film's Gladiator 2, funnily enough.
She hasn't done anything since 2019.
Basically, what the story tries to put is a cycle of revenge. The fact that the Greeks really treated their entire village and herself like trash. So that's what motivates her, for fueling the war.
Is that supposed to be Leonidas' kid?
No. As far as I know, no.
Actually, does his son even come back in this movie? I know he was in the previous.
I don't think so.
Oh, Eva Green. She was also in Dumbo.
Mm-hmm.
And Casino Royale.
Her latest movie was The Three Musketeers. I think a two-parter by the looks of it. Yeah, a two-parter.
Yeah.
Hey, Gerard.
Again, there's the stock footage.
Mm-hmm. And Michael Fassbender.
As only archive footage, as it says here on the Wikipedia article.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure Gerard Butler got a bit of a paycheck for using his archive footage.
Hopefully.
Easiest paycheck in the world.
I mean, literally didn't need to do anything. Possibly just say yes to the use of the stock footage.
It's even easier than Michael Shannon's paycheck for BVS, where all he had to do is just stay there and pretend to be a corpse.
Yeah, I was about to ask, was that actually him or just a dummy?
I mean, even if it wasn't him,
even if it was a dummy job, they had to use his appearance. So
which meant they had to pay him some royalties for that. So still easy paycheck. Oh.
So yeah, looking off of her filmography, Eva Green really carved out a niche playing villainous figures. It seems, from this to Morgan Pendragon to Milady de Winter. Oh, and she was also in Sin City, A Dame to Kill For.
Saw that in the cinema too.
How was that?
It's fine.
Cool.
Well, in terms of movies that Gerard Butler was in this year, the only one he was actually in was How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Neat. That movie was good.
Mm-hmm. It came out in the same year as this movie did, in fact.
Huh. I will say I'm relatively able to keep up with the time stuff here, but I do think maybe it might have been more simple if we just kept things to, hey, this is Xerxes' past, this is Artemisia's past, and then we just fast forward to the events after the original movie.
Silly Jova, expecting a time scale in a Frank Miller story to be simple.
Fair point. I wouldn't be surprised if this was Miller's intention.
Let's not forget how in Asbar he had literally flashbacks within flashbacks.
And then stuff happened like 5 hours, no, 10 minutes, no, 15 minutes within this or that.
Yeah, we jump back to 5 hours ago, and within those 5 hours we jump back to 2 hours ago. We're like, it's just...
But yeah, here we're about to see Artemisia partaking in a sea battle, which, yeah, going off of history, that was one thing she apparently excelled at.
Oh well.
As it's a custom with the battles of the Mediterranean, bigger ships tend to be more resistant, but smaller will be able to flank and actually, spear them. Assuming they survive, obviously.
Of course.
Mhm.
I also say this, I get what the idea that they wanted to have a different color to contrast, but compared to the first movie, which had the vibrant red of the mantle of the Spartans, the blue one used by the Athenians here really doesn't hold much of a candle.
I'm wondering if the idea is to do it to differentiate it to make it easier to
Yeah,
tell.
like he said, it's probably because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to go to home? Who wants to go with me?
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of rousing army speeches, this is one of them.
I mean, they had mentioned the term street fight before, so...
Good advice.
He's gonna die.
Yeah, the ships aren't that big. Come on, guys. What's the worst that can happen?
Oh dear. They've got the tide on their side.
Is it too late to surrender, sir?
Only cowards surrender. You know, seeing this scene brings me back to the interviews that the actors gave about the final fight scene from Pirates of the Caribbean World's End and how they pretty much all complained about how soaking wet it made them. Wonder how these
that's kind of the point of actual,
I mean, what did they
naval
expect?
fights like this.
It just makes you wonder, how do these guys feel given how they are wearing much less than those actors were?
Well, consider a lot more metal on them, so...
Although, part of me does wonder how much of this is... Oh! Part of me does wonder how much of this is, practical and how much of it is CGI in that regard. Because, with the Pirates of the Caribbean final scene, a lot of that was practical, typical of Gore Verbinski in that regard. But, the bit...
Well, go on.
The bits that needed to be CGI, like, the tsunami or the funnel, obviously were CGI, but most of it otherwise was legit them raining down on the cast the whole time. And yes, that's one thing they got, the rams.
This was before the Roman invented the I forgot the name of the essentially a walking bridge that they could actually, retract at will. But this was way before that. But I will also say this. I know it's a bit too early to judge, but I know that there was the whole plagiarism controversy. But God, I kind of missed the score of the first movie. In recent times, especially considering we got to know more about this modus operandi, but I kind of lost a lot of respect for Junkie XL, Tom Okenborg's type of scores, and I can hear it here. This score is very anonymous so far.
Yeah, that's I can never. I don't understand why Okenborg is in doing so many when I have yet to hear a single score from him that I can even hum after leaving the movie.
From what I understand, he's like the uber safe composer.
Not to mention his recent comments about Sonic.
Even before that, Pedro, there was also, well, not probably on the same verbatim, but he also, used that as his motivation for what he did to the Godzilla versus Kong or X-Com movies, which, like I said, are a huge step down in terms of score because Bear McCreary's score for King of the Monster is amazing and he really deserved an Oscar.
I still stand by this. I still stand by this. The composer for the Sonic movies should have been Henry Jackman. He was literally the perfect choice. He's a gamer, and he's done the scores for Wreck-It Ralph and the Detective Pikachu movie. He literally knows this shit.
Even beyond that, Pedro, maybe hire someone who doesn't think or she doesn't stink when it comes to, using source material stuff.
Yeah, I feel like Junkie XL is a remnant of when Tim Miller was in charge of the Sonic project, since, that definitely fit in with how Tim Miller would act in regards to the movie. And I'm wondering if they couldn't really get rid of Junkie XL for the sequels because of maybe Paramount insisting on
contractual
keeping
stuff,
him, possibly that too.
Remind me, Jova, you've seen the Pikachu movie, right?
Yes.
Okay. We have the Pokemon movie theme playing in the credits and everything. Because again, Harry Jackman knows this stuff. Again, he was literally the perfect choice, and you couldn't get him. Jesus Christ. He's like, ugh.
All right, let's see.
Oh, you're fired.
Well, more like watered, I guess. I find your lack of faith disturbing. I don't know.
That doesn't work for this context.
It's more of a case where he disappointed her because he did not allow her to win the battle. So yeah.
This is basically Artemisia as written by Dwebs. She just randomly kills people whenever she feels like it.
To be fair, like I said, there was a sort of a motivation here. Still petty, but still present.
Yeah, but he failed, so you know what bad guys are like with failure.
See, okay, like I said, even if it's not on par, this was a bit more like it because the score of the first 300 did add a lot of vocal into it, you know.
Okay, that's the thing, though. Okay, I'll agree the score isn't great, but on general principles, I'll at least say, at least Junkie XL made his own melodies.
I get it, Waves, but I kind of wish we could have had that and also a good score.
Isn't that the big crime of art, plagiarism?
Yes, it is, Dwebs. Nobody's saying that Tyler Bates. Nobody's trying to absolve Tyler Bates of what he did. We're just saying that his score is still better than this one.
I will say this. I'm fine with the score in this movie. I feel like it works. To me, this is Junkie XL's MO. He makes stuff that just works. The problem is, he, in his own mindset, sees it as the true standards, and that using anything that's, I guess not the Hollywood standard is misfitting.
Mom, no disrespect, but you kissing a severed head is kind of a turn-off. I did not mean it that way, you fool!
So basically, in case you're wondering where we are timeline-wise, this is happening alongside the events of the first movie. As in, the Athenians are using their fleet to absorb a part of the Persian fleet.
Basically, the sea battles while Leonidas is handling the land battles, and will eventually come into confrontation with Xerxes.
You see, these shots look fine, well, except when he's doing that.
Yeah, they really tried to replicate the type of cinematography that Zack would have.
Water flowing at the screen.
Okay, it's like Zach told him, okay, I need my slow-mo porn Noam, so can you please do that for me? Zach, you are a weird man.
Hold on, we'll still have to wait 10 more years for that fantasy to come to fruition.
Isn't this actually no, Pedro? Wouldn't this be even creepier though? It's not even he's doing it; he's having someone else do his porn for him.
It's like the equivalent of a cock arc.
Jesus.
Like, I allow you to do it, but I get to see and watch.
A cuck arc involving slow motion. Now I've heard everything.
I mean, with the vulgar dialogue in this movie, I'm surprised no one's tried to
Well,
cook
Jova-
anybody.
Well,
To be
Jova,
fair,
okay.
Glibs, we haven't seen yet the ugly bastard, so...
Well, Jova, how about this? How do you feel about the idea of slow motion farming?
Again. From what, like, I will give Snyder credit. Before Rebel Moon, as far as I know, for as hokey as a slow motion can be, it normally does serve a point and purpose. Rebel Moon is apparently where all reason went out the goddamn window with it.
I also want to see if there's any kind of context to that, or if it really is just that gratuitous.
Yeah.
And everyone in the other ships next to him's like, "What was that? We couldn't hear you."
You know, I never thought that Silent Hill could have a C division, but, you know, you never know.
Yeah, that's one thing I've never understood. That's one thing I've always found kind of funny in these movies. People who have no means of amplifying their voice so everyone around them can hear them, and yet they can still hear them.
That's the thing with usually they did have the equivalent of a megaphone back then. Of course, much more crude, as in like usually a piece of leather or metal in a cone formation, but still something to amplify your voice.
Oh no! Our greatest nemesis rocks.
Again, what they're basically saying is that the ships of the Persians were too big, and with the fog they did not know the terrain, so yeah. They took advantage of that.
Did you imbeciles not think of rocks when you made these ships?
Meanwhile, the Athenians like everyone point to them and laugh.
Yeah, I love how even Artemisia's like, he's got them right where he wants them. And no, I was talking about Thermopilis.
Themistocles.
Oh.
Dude, you're gonna splat on the ground. This is not Dark Souls. Plunge attacks do not work that way.
No,
Wasn't there a 300
it's-
video game?
Yes, on the PSP, but I've yet to see if it's worth recording or not.
I love how
Come on,
he
Sony, put that on the backward compatibility program.
Yeah, I love how he had to take off his helmet to show us who he was.
Yeah, classic Hollywood thing.
Yeah,
we
that's
cannot have
what-
the characters with their face concealed too much.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I don't think the original didn't have this problem. Even with a helmet, I could still tell who was Leonidas.
Again,
It's definitely a thing that became
it's
more
funny.
prominent in Hollywood,
Okay.
I'd say, by the 2010s.
I don't remember what year was it, but I distinctly remember Carl Urban actually campaigned for the Dread movie he was in to have him having the helmet on completely for the entirety of the movie because he actually wanted it to actually be faithful to the source material. And I actually respect him for that.
Mm-hmm. Like, for some reason, Hollywood execs are absolutely convinced that if we don't see a character's actor's face like 90% of the time, that'll somehow make a movie sell less.
Halo TV show, anybody?
Yeah.
Which is now getting cancelled.
Oh well. I mean, I haven't seen a single frame of it. Am I missing much?
This displeases Kakark's Dweebs. We were mentioning those before.
Yes.
Because that's what I want to see in a Halo TV show. Of
Nobody.
course.
Being
Look,
cocked.
Look, for as horny as the internet can be, no one was asking for clapping cheeks in a Halo show.
Are you sure about that, Jovi? You just gotta look hard enough and you'll find somebody.
It was a very niche audience then because the mass majority hated that. Also
they did
double
not-
tapped.
Also, I don't think Arbiter is even in the show, but even so, I don't even think they bother asking Keith David to voice him. Okay, let me see if I can actually pinpoint who this Count Tunnel and Lex Luthor is supposed to be.
Wait. Oh, okay. He mentions his father, but doesn't say who his father is. Is his... Okay, again. I know we saw Leonidas' son. Is that supposed to be his son? Because it
I
feels like
still don't think so. Let me see.
it feels like they're putting all this importance on him, and then the weight behind that "my father" bits. Like,
Let me see.
Oh, yes, no, and that slow-mo is so good. Zach, will you stop doing that?
Callisto, which is the son of Scylla. Let's see. I think, yeah, Jack.
This is Sparta!
Yeah, Jack O'Connell, which was present in.
oh,
I think he's British. Okay. With a bunch of movies that I do not recognize, of course. And after this, it was in the 2023 Ferrari biopic.
Miss, are you sure you want me to carry a message? From what we've heard, messengers to the Spartans tend to not end up well.
Anyway, in case you're wondering, Giovanni, Callisto, the young one, is not Leonidas' son, but is the son instead of one of Themistocles', friends, Scylla.
Ah. So, all in all, job well done. That doesn't sound good.
Don't worry, I carry a message, not anything
Come
more than
in
that.
peace.
So please don't throw this one down a pit too.
Don't worry, there isn't a pit around, it's just a big wide sea. So at least you won't have far to fall to hit the water.
That's big talk for somebody who we just spanked in the last two sea battles.
It's something that is taken also from the first movie, Jova. The Persians having a lot of arrogance and believing, despite everything, they will still win because, divine right and everything.
Okay, how far are we away from land? Okay, kill him! Ah!
Yeah, I'm more surprised that they haven't tried this immediately.
I guess there is some truth to them wanting to do things relatively honorably.
Sure. Okay, did they just get those tragedy, comedy, Shakespeare masks and just do...
Those were present also in the first movie, if you forgot, Waves. Although they also look slightly cheaper. They could not recover the same props of the first movie.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a good question. In regards to
This is Warner Bros. I'm pretty sure they store at least some of them in a store, in a warehouse.
In regards to why some of the practical effects may not look as good, my guess is that a lot of budget was blown on CGI, which can be pretty expensive.
Yeah, we were mentioning other examples. This was 2 years after the Battleship movie, and we know how bad that one was with the CGI.
God.
Overuse.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you wanted to sum this movie up, there we go. An Australian versus a French person.
In nations that are neither that are presented here. Great.
The closest one is the French person, and that's still miles away from Greece.
Yeah, I will also say something. Since we're halfway through, I guess I can mention. So far, I'm not particularly convinced by Sullivan Stapleton's performance. Again, you can kind of tell that they were trying to recapture Gareth Butler's, Leonidas, while trying still to do a bit their own thing because, it's not supposed to be a Spartan and everything. But he looks very anonymous. I'm kind of reminded of the two Hercules movies that came out the same year as this one.
I'm fine with him in the role, but I definitely agree. It feels like he's trying to be Leonidas, but nah, dude, you ain't him. And I'll admit, he does seem like a guy I could just mistake for being a general NPC in the grand scheme of things. I guess it's because a lot of his stuff more or less chalks up to, hey, he's the one leading them at sea, and I'm guessing he'll be Leonidas's replacement after Leonidas dies.
Also, who was responsible for the haircut of Eva Green's character? Like, I could see the red seam between her hair. Jeez.
That is quite a parting line, yeah.
Also, I've got to say, of every time I've seen Eva Green in something, nothing in her voice gives away that she's French.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give them credit. They definitely changed their accents up well for this.
I was going to say, Eva Green's the best part of this movie, in my opinion.
Easily, yes. She plays arguably a bad guy, a charismatic figure, and a competent enough war general, all wrapped in a package. I can see why critics definitely took to her performance the most out of these.
No, I didn't say that. Is it true you kissed a decapitated head? The one time I do that!
Oh, you're into that. That's a turn off.
How many times have people said that to me? It's just I only did it the once.
Yes, but you do it once and...
I can literally see the vein popping on his arm, jeez.
I'm sure that's just anger and not arousal whatsoever.
Carousal? I don't know.
Yes. Oh, Eva Green was definitely having a blast with this performance.
What if I say no? Okay, welcome to slow motion kissing.
God damn it! You were supposed to be the Sigma male. Retract the advances.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait. Oh.
I so want to see those behind the scenes scenes where Zach is asking Noam, "Can we put slow mo in this bit and this bit?" And the boy goes on the more of an eyebrow Noam's raising
Like,
right
Zach,
now.
are you sure about this? Yes, I need to specifically see this slow-mo in this scene in the editing room for personal reasons, of course.
Zach was just pissed he couldn't do this in Man of Steel, so he took it out on poor Noam and made him do this scene.
Also, not for nothing, Zach, whoever was responsible between the director, Zach or someone. And we cut to the two guys and be like, yup, that's my job.
First time.
I don't know where year was it, but this is not a good conveying of what is colloquially called hate sex. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's this meant to be?
Apparently they're into the horse riding technique? What the heck? Oh!
Huh. You know, it's kind of hard to have sex with a woman when she keeps her clothes on, but although not impossible, I guess.
I can't tell if he is...
Yeah, have you heard of try humping, Pedro?
I can't tell if they're doing it or fighting.
Yeah, like I said, if they're trying to do the hate sex thing, Jova, but let me tell you, it's not working. Also, Waves, of course, I showcased in such masterful products like Right to Hell Retribution.
Wait. He hadn't already? He sure seemed like... Oh!
Wait, you did all this just so you could...
That's a true assertion, blue balling.
except she's the one who got blue balled.
Hey, I didn't say I was a god.
Wow. You just got rejected, lady. Oh. Guessing she does not take rejection well. Look, this is all very awkward, and I really need
not-
to...
Oh, but that's not the head I'm going to cut off.
No! Look, I'm still trying to get down the boner, okay? Can we just table this for, actual war later? Thank you.
Tell me,
Sir,
guys, what happened?
Sir, why your testosterone smells like 50 times more than it should do?
Well, you should know it was a very rigorous negotiation we went through. It was very rough, and I'm afraid it did not work out.
What?
We'll have to go to
Be
war.
beaten.
I'm sorry, well, that's supposed to be a comedy bit.
I think so.
Wait.
That,
Okay, I'll be honest, I forgot about that scene.
Okay. That may be the weirdest scene I've seen in this Zack Snyder marathon, and this is the movie not directed by Snyder.
Then again, I can totally believe it came from an idea from Frank Miller. He's the kind of guy that, makes weird things out of sex scenes,
So basically, we had the combination of a sex scene, a fight scene, and basically utter rejection. Huh.
And like I said, again, the whole thing lacked, it was just a tad creepy. Oh, Jesus Christ, what?
What is that smeared on the camera?
I guess it's supposed to be like oil?
Yeah, so, I think she's pissed at you. Very pissed at you. Dude,
This is what.
Dude,
Huh.
Dude,
These
what
ships can't crash. Is that a metaphor now? A pointy ship can't crash into a wall.
Jesus, dude, what did you do to make her so mad?
She blue-balled me.
Yeah, again, as when it comes to narration from Frank Miller, he thinks, in this case, the Persian had ninjas in their ranks.
With black goop?
What was that black goop?
It's camouflage, isn't it?
No, it's tar, if I remember correctly.
No. No, what I mean is I think they're using it as camouflage to mask those coming for them.
Oh, that too. Usually, tar was used as a flammable source.
Okay, I'm sorry. After that scene earlier, every line the main character says now, I can't take seriously. I always think of it as some weird sexual metaphor pun. Like, what was the point of that?
Again, to show that...
Because it looked cool.
You see, it's to show that our protagonist is truly strong in mental might.
Oh, of course, so
Well,
she wants to
apparently,
have their revenge in her own special way.
Well, apparently, Eva Green's long-time dream for acting was playing an action hero in the movie, and this apparently fulfilled that.
Oh no,
God.
it got an arrow to the knee.
And that one was to the belly button.
Well, I mean, props for her for being able to fulfill her dream.
Remember, Dwebs, this is Snyderland. We operate on the rule of cool.
Oh my god, we're doing the Boromir thing. Yeah, Zach, when Tolkien wrote about Boromir being skewered by multiple arrows, there was kind of more of a purpose rather than just a cheap revenge.
Also, apparently there were things planned for the movie before filming started. Like you said earlier, Zack Snyder was originally going to make it, but he was busy with the DCEU. Gerard Butler was offered to come back, but he declined. Ace Killos was apparently offered to Matt Smith, but he said no. He would go on to be in Terminator Genesis the following year.
Great choice. There you go, Jova. That's what I meant. That's why they used the tar.
So I think they were using it
And the
both...
film was apparently just going to be called Xerxes, and then later on 300, the Battle of Artemisia.
I think calling it 300 Rise of Xerxes probably would have been a better compromise.
I
don't
guess given Xerxes' lack of presence in this movie, I can see why they may have backed out on that name.
Like, calling it Steel 300 in order to connect it to the first movie probably was the better idea in order to make you understand that it was connected, because that was one of the big problems of Prometheus, because it was not clear in the marketing whatsoever when it was still supposed to be in the Alien franchise. People were doubting about it or not.
300, the occasional appearance of Xerxes.
Yeah, let's call it that.
I'm gonna say Rise of an Empire works since, given how this will likely end, if history is anything to go off of, yes, an empire will rise from this. And I guess it could also be considered the rise of Xerxes' empire.
Look out! Oh.
Oh,
It's a
snap.
bomb. I mean, considering the Persian Empire extended into deeper territories of Asia, I can't believe they might have smuggled some black powder from the Chinese. Unless it's supposed to be a tar bomb. I don't know how that works, but sure. Oh my god. It's the equivalent of walking away from an explosion in a 300 movie.
Well, he refused to explode on me, so I
will
exploded
say-
him.
For all their flaws, I'm glad that at least the Hobbit movies did not do this.
We all, not to mention, we all know that Neil Breen's Pass Through has the best walking away from an explosion
Of
shot.
course.
So
Hey, he survived!
Of course he did, Java.
Well, he didn't.
Ooh.
From which part of Davy Jones' crew did you come from?
Take your pick.
Oh, a sea creature.
Wow, we can't even give him a burial. He's been eaten by a weird sea creature.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a sea version of the Monsters from the Darkness comic.
Oh, wait, I'm guessing that bit was a dream? Or did he get him out of the water?
Or
in
was
time?
it, Trova?
dun, dun, dun.
Again, the presence of those kind of creatures, in a character experience like that's also typical for Frank Miller type of stories. The weird thing is that the first movie kind of sort of established that despite having some, unknown element, the supernatural was not really a thing. So I mean, this kind of sea creature feels a bit weird.
Like, the way the 300 movies seem to work is they definitely have something of a supernatural idea to them, but typically they keep it ambiguous as to if stuff is actually magical or not. Oh, poor Skillis. I knew him as the bearded fellow who just happens to be Tom Holland Eisenberg's dad.
I mean, I'm sorry again, but Sullivan Stapleton's performance really is not working. Like, he should really feel a bit more emotional in this scene.
I feel like that's kind of a thing with all these guys. Like, I look, I'm not gonna say they're bad, but a lot of it does feel like, hey, this is the stand-in for Leonidas. Hey, this is the stand-in for Michael Fassbender's character. Like, shoot, he even kind of looks like Michael Fassbender's character.
Maybe they wanted to have the thought process of let's get these actors that are not necessarily American, and try to see if this movie boosts their career, in mainstream Hollywood, which it really did. And because from what I checked, most of these people went back to their home countries to do their own thing.
It seems like the one who benefited the most from this was Eva Green.
Yeah. And to be fair, her presence in Hollywood was already, established. If anything, she's one of the more known actors in this movie.
Well, there you go, Theo. Here's your emotion.
At least there's something, I guess. Yeah.
Like, I get it, okay? Like, Gerard Butler's performance as Leonidas was legendary. Like, obviously, those would be big shoes to fill. But I do wonder if the little process was just telling him, "Hey, do your best Gerard Butler impression."
And also, there's the fact to remember that the original 300 had the proper comic to establish itself from. While in this, they basically got a draft of what it was supposed to be.
Which is
So
funny.
probably they have to improvise in a lot of
The actual
places.
comic didn't even come out till like 2018, did it?
Did it ever come out?
Yeah, like we've said, late after this movie.
Because
remember, Joe, another thing that Frank Miller is more known for these days, lethargy.
Yeah. So this is like the reverse of Batman 89 Echoes, which is based off of Batman Triumphant, a movie that was drafted but never got made. At the time of this movie's release, this was a movie based off of a comic book that was drafted. Here we are.
And now we're basically doing after the events of the original movie.
So
again,
basically, Darkest Hour.
While technically we're not jumping in between, within places, as you can see, it still works as a pre-sequel, like pre, during, and after it. It feels very weird. It feels like we should have like a, huge recut that incorporates the first movie into it.
So, yeah, at this point, Xerxes is pissed because Leonidas proved he's still human.
After all.
And there's the disfigured guy. Also played by the same actor from the previous one. Euphrates, I believe was his name. He's still played by Andrew Tiernan.
Oh my god, I can literally see the fact that he was wearing a bald cap. Not Cersei's the other guy. Look at him. I can see the contours of a bald cap. Holy shit.
Also, in terms of famous Brazilian actors, Rodrigo Santoro, I can't think of anyone else other than him.
So what do we do now?
I will put on a Scottish accent and pretend to be Leonidas.
Wait, you haven't already been doing that, sir?
Remember, the entire point of the Battle of Thermopilis was to inspire the rest of Greece to be, put to war, to unite. Go!
He wasn't the only traitor in your midst. But yes, that is the same actor from the previous movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it wouldn't be the right thing to do. I see he grew to regret his actions, which, to be fair, from what I recall, that was a detail at the end of the original 300.
It was a blink and you miss moment, but it was noticeable.
They all died. That sounds like a defeat to me. I said quiet.
Points of view and everything. That's kind of the point.
So another sea battle is where it ends. So,
Hey, there's Faramir. Like I said, they did a good job in making sure that the returning actors looked just the same as in the first movie, which, again, don't think it was that easy to accomplish. It was, like, again, 6 years after it.
Also,
So there was a good chance,
Or 7.
some... 7. So there was a good chance that some of the actors would have aged, in a decently considerable manner.
also,
That bit just looked like she was just standing in front of a matte painting.
to give him credit, I guess now in this city, the lighting does resemble that of the original movie now more.
There's the thing
Although
is,
that
what
bloom.
yeah, the bloom, and I also noticed a couple of lens flares here and there too. No, I'm sorry. Again, I don't know if it was something from the director that he chose, Noam that he chose to do it, or some of the other producers other than Zach. But whoever decided on how the special effects should be used in this movie, honestly, did a terrible job between the CGI and the blooming and lens flares. I'm sorry.
I can imagine in 2014 they thought this looked great because, again, CGI was the in thing, but like many things, if that was the case, it's dated, unfortunately. And shoot, yeah, it's 10 years after this movie released.
Can I pay you in screws?
Should I cut off your head?
It's Leonidas' sword.
Don't worry, it still has your husband's fingerprints on it.
Oh, he has his head.
Yeah, seriously, I couldn't even find out which body was my husband's. A lot of their heads have been cut off. Couldn't even bury my husband whole, man. What do you think that makes me feel?
I also noticed a bit of repetition in the narration, another staple of Frank Millerism.
I don't think Miller even produced this movie or anything.
No, but like I said, he probably gave him the draft of what he was working on for the comic. And I can't believe, some stuff was adapted 1-to-1, at the very least.
So what was the name of the comic that came out?
Xerxes.
And I would have laid some pipe down, too. Mother!
How the hell did he survive that explosion?
Personal.
He said he was dead.
Awkward.
I'm the king, damn it. Yeah, what he said.
Who was the one who gave you the idea for God King? I mean, she's not wrong.
You know, I'm just glad that this movie came out in 2014. Otherwise, if it came out today, there would be a lot of people angry on the internet saying that this is a girl boss story.
Yeah. I mean, it's hardly girl boss. I mean, she's the villain.
Well, she's still, as you can see by the dialogue waves, she's basically putting Zershi into the place and basically says that the story of the first movie was really pointless for him, which, technically speaking, was. So.
But they didn't.
Bummer.
Yeah, they literally gave their lives.
I mean, you're gonna die anyway with that mentality.
Yeah, I won't judge you. Like,
But they actually do. It's one of those, moral, hostages kind of thing. As in, oh, I'm totally not doing this, but they're doing it.
So from what I'm
Okay. Go, sorry.
So from what I'm looking at from the synopsis of the Xerxes graphic novel, there's like little to no mention of Artemisia, which does lead me to wonder if definitely she got a bolstered role for the movie. That, or again,
Probably.
to be fair, that was like a draft apparently they were taking from Miller, so
Yeah.
that could have been the original thing, but yeah.
Also, again, I'm sorry, but Themistocles is not really good at speeches.
Like, I think he is like this movie.
What I will say, compared to before, the score is trying more, so we'll give fair what it's due.
Oh yeah, like I honestly feel like the score works for this movie. It's nothing overall spectacular, but it works in the sense that it feels like it does fit the scenes well. Your father would be so proud of you.
Basically. There you go.
did he? No, he said you fucking suck.
Imagine telling that to a son right before the battle of his life. Ooh, the full armor set this time.
Mm-hmm. Which was used for the marketing, if I remember correctly.
I will say this. The costuming definitely feels like something that is well-oriented for this.
Also, this is we were just talking about the music. This is sounding like discount Mick Gordon's work for Doom.
About what I said earlier, I will reach her. I mean, you reached her earlier, so will you stop talking about that?
It was just one time, and I rejected her too, I'll have you know.
Well, I heard she rejected you, sir.
Nope. I resisted. I let her actually think I was going to do it, and then I threw her off.
I am just so glad you didn't say we shall take her from behind, sir.
Well, we can't. Look at those spikes, man.
It's cool looking, but a bit impractical, admittedly.
I'm guessing it's a good rear guard in case someone tries to take her from behind.
Yeah, she's gonna do the spin dash, I guess.
I know Rebel Moon probably has a lot of silly scenes, but there's gonna have to be something incredibly silly to top the fight, sex, and rejection scene in slow motion.
Well, the thing about Rebel Moon is it's not so much that it's silly, it's more so the fact that it's just terribly written.
Also, as we heard, Jova, the extended cut is supposedly having more sex scenes in it.
Yeah,
so,
and gore. So
we'll have to see.
He might still quote unquote save it.
Maybe he'll top him. So.
Well, again, Pedro is the only one. Well, also Luis, I guess, who has seen the original version, so I don't know what the differences will be.
Don't worry, we'll talk.
Obviously,
I've seen the theatrical versions twice. Once with Dwibs and once with Dedger. So I have a good grasp on how those are, so I'll be able to look at the extended versions and compare.
Also,
I seriously doubt it's all that much different, honestly. Because when you look at Sucker Punch, it's not all that different, for example.
Sucker Punch apparently did change, like, the context of quite a few scenes.
Some scenes, it is an improvement, but only just, if you ask
Also,
me.
I guess the young discount Jesse Eisenberg decided to put in same clown posse makeup.
I'm guessing the idea is to show that he's ready to face death, hence the skull face
to become
painting.
a specter of battle, something like that. Yeah, the CJ blood still sucks. Sorry.
Oh, that was just mean.
I'm just reminded, considering also our fighting style is the two sword swing, I'm kind of reminded of the first boss in Prince of Persia Warrior Within, just less stripperific.
Okay, those two elite
Really
mooks are going to be
silly,
trouble.
Like it's like a waterfall full of blood comes out of their heads when it.
Yeah, again, and again, it really feels unnatural compared to the rest of the movie. I really don't get what. Okay, do we know what studio they use for the CGI? Let me see.
I'm not sure, but I'm definitely seeing why the over-stylized gore was one of the things critics complained about, because holy cow, this is legit just silly.
Slow-mo. Again, we're trying to replicate the one-track shot fight of the first movie, except, that one actually was almost entirely practical, while instead this is almost completely in CGI.
Also,
oh, man.
Also, I'll say, it's amazing how all this blood flies everywhere, yet none of it seems to stay on the characters.
Let me see. Okay, we see also from the logo that Legendary Picture was partially responsible for this. The movie was filmed mostly in Bulgaria. Underwater green screens instead were filmed at the Leaves 10 Studios. Was originally supposed to come out in 2013, but was pushed almost a year later. Damn. Possibly to add more effects. But no, it doesn't really mention here about what studio they use for the CGI. I guess Legendary Pictures has an internal one.
Well, the blood stayed on that guy.
Double rejection!
This time I will cut off your head!
Which one? You'll miss either.
Yes!
Also, I love it. They had the blood splotches on the camera, which I'm guessing there was also 3D in the
3D.
Was part of the 3D.
Oh, you had to
That
go
sounded-
there.
That sounded better in the head of a scriptwriter, which in this case it was definitely Zach of the two.
You fight hard. How did I not remember these lines?
You know, knowing that Zack Snyder did want to include a scene of Batman coming down on Catwoman, do you think he would have had that be in slow motion?
Yeah, I'm kind of glad when we didn't got it in hindsight. Parlay?
Damn, the idiot who thought of the word parlay.
So, you want to put the
Now
blades...
what?
No one can tell he's just skilling.
Oh, God, he's trying to pull the Batman Joker thing with her, like, you wouldn't kill me.
Except it's from the
never
good
kill
guy,
you.
supposedly.
What would I do without you? We have to run mob dealers? No, you complete me.
I love how she turns her head. He's like, wait, who's narrating now?
Sir, they appear to have blades at each other's throats, but her eyes are going up for some reason.
I guess the rest of the entire ship was decimated. Oh, the reinforcements of the rest of the Greeks. Okay.
Which will eventually be what eventually brings about Xerxes' downfall.
Yes.
That's right. My narration is just that great that she can hear me all the way from over there.
Oh, she can feel her husband in the wind.
Okay, I won't lie, that is a pretty cool shot. And the music swells just right there.
Okay, what's stopping me from just stabbing him now?
You're shocked.
She knows. Remember what she said previously about being a martyr. Leonidas being a martyr. She probably doesn't want to do the same thing. I also noticed the bald guy with the beard that just showed up. I think he's also from the first movie. The guy that was from the contingent that joined Leonidas, but also survived at the end.
Right, I think they were the ones that left.
But not to worry, I have one more trick up my sleeve to destroy their morale. This man sucks in bed!
And Xerxes is like, well, screw this.
I also just noticed Xerxes' collar choker thing seems also identical to those magnetized ones from Wild Wild West.
Oh, that didn't work. Well, it was at least worth a try.
No.
She finally meets her end.
Also, with a simple stab in in the gut. Look, what I said about The Last of Us 2 rings true. The body can survive with a wound like that despite losing some blood.
My guess is she's
aim
gonna...
at the heart.
Admittedly, she's not dead yet. She's still seeing it, so she's probably gonna die from the blood loss.
Told you so. Quick! Kill the queen! She has no armor! Ah!
You fool! Her lack of
But
armor is what gives her a stat buff increase.
And also remember, the gist of it is that the Persian militia is, badly equipped and not prone to fight. So very easy pickings.
Okay, now she's dead. Took a bit of time, but, you know. I wonder if they told Lena Headey, could you please come back? We'll even let you get to impale some guys.
Yeah, that being said, they should have given her a shield too. Like, I don't get why just a sword.
Maybe she insisted
Yeah, but
on...
she's just as Spartan as everyone else.
I'm guessing she insisted strictly on the sword for offense as opposed to defense. For vengeance sake. Hey, Delios.
And yeah, Farmy's like, I'm still here.
In epic slow motion.
I wonder if this is how... okay, Lena, if you come back, I'll give you this moment. Oh, and he killed the cameraman.
Jesus. Now...
Yep, that's the end.
Now, in regards to how the Xerxes book ends, apparently this movie adapted technically the first half of it. Since apparently the later half of the Xerxes book does actually go into Xerxes' defeat, and then later...
Yeah, I remember, Jova, the very last scene of the original 300, instead he said after this, with Faramir, the character played by the actor who played Faramir, leading the rest of the other Greeks onto another field battle, which he said after this one. So, like he said, this is still all over the place when it comes to the timeline.
When it comes to finally wrapping this up, there's supposed to be a final section where after Xerxes' defeat, then we're dealing with essentially Darius III versus Alexander the Great, which is apparently something that Snyder revealed in May 2021 that he had written an adaptation of that. That being said, the script was retitled Blood and Ashes, but it failed to be greenlit by Warner Brothers Pictures. However, in December 2023, Snyder revealed that he had regained the rights for Blood and Ashes from Warner Brothers Pictures, and he has plans on developing the film in the future. I'm actually surprised Netflix hasn't announced that, since Netflix seemed to be all in on the Snyder train these days.
So I guess the Warner Bros. Doesn't have the rights to the license anymore, which is kind of a shame. Leonidas was kind of the Dark Horse kind of character, but I wanted to see multiverses, alas.
Well, to be fair, there is a chance he could still show up in multiverses if they have retroactive rights to the characters, or if they negotiate enough of the characters, since multiverses seems like it might be open to bringing in characters from all different sorts of studios and whatnot, so...
We'll see. For the time being, there's no post-credit scene, so for the time being, this franchise will not be in Battle Multiverses initiative. So final thoughts, Dweebs?
Well, in terms of appearance, it certainly looks like the last movie, so Noam did a good job in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But the blood effects, though, in fact, some of the CGI as a whole was just really off. Like, I'm pretty sure not that much blood comes out of somebody when you cut them like that.
Oh, you should see Higurashi, especially the newer shows.
Well, okay. If you're talking about how the blood looks bad, fine. But, like, obviously these movies are, even the first movie, are meant to be visually exaggerated. The point of the quantity of blood is to make it look cooler. So
This looks silly, though.
I don't think the quantity of blood... Well, Dibs. Okay, how about this? Like, what about the blood that you see in something like Kill Bill or something like that? Like,
Honestly, I don't even remember Kill Bill all that much.
okay, fine. Go on.
Um, the use of okay, I'm not against vulgarity in dialogue, but how it's used here was just funny, and I'm pretty sure that's not what they were going for. Like, and seriously, that bloody sex scene, it just makes me not be able to take either of the two characters that were involved in that seriously after that bit, in spite of their actors trying their hardest with what they were given. More so Eva Green, because yeah, like Tio, I wasn't that convinced by the actor playing the main character here, to be honest, unfortunately. He just came across to me as Gerard Butler light. Like, not even like he's good in his own regard. No, he's trying to do a Gerard Butler impression, but isn't really that good enough. The story, I mean, it's functional enough, I guess. Well, that's just about it. It's just a functional movie. It's not. I mean, there are a couple of unintentionally funny moments, especially with the slow mo. I mean, I'm just I mean, even the slow motion sex, the slow motion putting stuff through water. Oh God, could you imagine if Zack Snyder made a movie that was entirely slow motion, like
Well,
literally the whole movie?
Well, there's like you, me, and Dej have joked about like the second part of Rebel Moon. It seems like he's trying to get to that point.
Yeah. Like, how about a world that only exists in slow motion?
See, here's the thing. It's not even just me and Luis, for the record. It's even Deji. See, the thing is, don't get me wrong. Yes, like you yourself were guessing, Teo, there is some purpose, like in terms of looking cool with the slow mo. The problem is that he uses it so much, even way more than his previous movies, to the point where it becomes more laughable than anything.
Oh no, I get that. What I was saying is that the purposeful choice of what use the slow mo, because you told me that it's about farmland, and I'm like, there got to be a reason why it's used there.
Well, if there is, Teo, I'll let you figure it out because I can't.
Okay, we'll see.
But the music is there. I mean, it's not bad already. It's like a lot of Junkie XL scores. It's not bad, but I've heard better. Like, I've heard better scores that try for a more ambient approach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really about it. This movie it's not a bad movie or anything, but it comes off as someone. It comes across either one of two ways. Someone tried to do a Zack Snyder impression, but not doing it very well, or some poor sap having to do a lot of things to appease someone doing an impression to do an impression of them. Like, seriously, I haven't seen any of Noah Moreau's other stuff, but I can't imagine he'd be the kind of person to think, how about we have like the horny bits be in slow motion, because Zach really wants.
I can tell you that Dweebs, like he said, his version of Watership Down is really just very boring, if I have to be honest.
Damn, what's a version of Watership Down being boring?
Yeah. Even the violence is toned down in that one. I don't know what Netflix was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a combination of Netflix and the BBC.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's about it. It's fine, but nothing special.
Pedro.
Okay, speaking as someone who thought the first 300 was just okay, I think this movie is basically, from what I can tell, about on par, I guess. I mean, it seems like, I mean, the plot is over the top and silly, but again, so was the first movie. The acting is very theatrical, but again, just like in the first movie, the visuals, despite the effects not being the best, still look enough like the first movie to me. Like Theo said, the score is worse, but well, that's the thing with Tom Alkenborg. His scores are very unmemorable. What else? No, it just feels like it's a 300 movie, really. Like, it doesn't feel like there's much in terms of difference. So, like, whatever problems this movie has, the first movie also had it to some extent. Although, yeah, I guess I can see why a lot of people think that the first movie is better. Because the first movie at the very least had the novelty factor of being the first movie to be directed in that specific style. Whereas this movie is just, obviously it's not going to have the novelty factor, so it doesn't have the same impact. Yeah, aside from that, no, it seems like, again, this is not really my kind of shit, but I guess if you're into 300, this is a serviceable sequel, I guess. At least it didn't drag on for 4 hours, like a certain other Snyder project that I can think of. So there's that. Yeah, I think it's fine. Again, if you're into this sort of thing, I'm not really noticing. Again, I feel like it's on par. I mean, that's basically it from what I can tell. The story is incredibly silly, but again, I expected this, so whatever. It's fine. It filled my average expectations. So there's that.
I'm gonna say this is a perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable sequel, prequel, everything quill to 300. But it's not without its issues. Okay, one thing I will say I actually do like better than the previous one, I do like Artemisia as an antagonist more than Xerxes in both this movie and the previous one. Part of it is that it does have a bit more of a personal one, but I do feel like we get better focus on the antagonistic forces in this one. I do appreciate also that I guess they do show how Xerxes came to be the way he is, essentially, in that regard. Neat stuff. So, yeah, if I can give this movie one credit over 300, I do like the handling of the antagonist better in that one. And going off of that, I can see why Eva Green was definitely lauded for her performance, because she is the breakout star of this movie. Like, pretty much every scene she handles at a 10. Holy cow. Now, yeah, that may be the only thing I can say is a complete improvement over the original. I'm not going to act like everything's a downgrade, but I'll admit, a lot of what you get in this movie, you could argue you get better in 300. Like, of course, you get the rousing parts, the speeches, with both Sullivan here and Butler in 300. You have, of course, his friends and allies who go against insurmountable odds. I guess one thing this does have is, hey, if you wanted to have a bit of a happier ending, essentially, you technically do get it here, with things ending on a much higher note as opposed to the death of the main characters that we all knew and loved. So, kudos there. The music works. It's nothing special, but I won't act like it's completely terrible or heck even unmemorable. There are some breakout tunes that do work here and there, regardless of what I think of Junkie XL and some of his more questionable mindsets here and there. I feel like he did a fine enough and suitable job for this one. Like, again, that's pretty much how I can describe this movie as a whole. It's suitable. It works. There's pretty much nothing offensively bad about it, nothing offensive to the original in that regard. It keeps the continuity well. Mind you, it does jump around in time a bit, but hey, I guess it technically works as, again, what was going on at certain times here and there. Now, for stuff that got a little hokey and silly, the visuals. Okay, the visuals for the most part aren't bad, but the blood. The CGI blood. Like, I have something of a tolerance for how CGI is used in media. Like, I'm not gonna automatically demonize it, like how, admittedly, I do feel like CGI may have gotten a little overhated by the time of the 2020s, but I digress. The CGI blood here, again, I don't know if it's because Zach wasn't the one in the director's chair guiding the visuals, but holy cow. Again, maybe this looked good for 2014. But this is not 2014. This is 2024, and I can say, holy cow, that blood not only looks dated, it looks like water food coloring mixed in with mud, essentially, which actually would make for an interesting practical effect, but I can clearly tell it's not there. Especially since for as much blood as there is, somehow our main hero and Artemisia almost never get the blood of their enemies on them, despite it practically splashing onto the camera and everything. Which is weird. And speaking of weird, I don't know if I should slap or shake hands with the person who came up with a slow motion fight / sex scene, but like I said, that may be the weirdest thing I've seen in a Zack Snyder anything. Not the worst, since admittedly in a weird way it kinda works, but holy cow, is it just blipping weird. But man, it's just so weird. It's weird in the sense that I can get what they were going for, but still, I'm just astounded that they actually had the gumption to go through with it. Almost like it was a dare or anything. But aside from that, like I said, the visuals are fine. The characters are overall well enough fine, even if some literally do just feel like replacements for characters from the original. The returning actors are all well and good. Again, this movie is fine. I could maybe even say it's good. Now, in comparing it to the original, I'd say these two are like two halves of the same coin. Though I will probably give the favor to 300 for having overall the better visuals, the better character writing, and structure overall here and there. That being said, I feel this is a worthy and fine enough sequel. Mind you, I only really recommend you seek it out if you're into the 300 franchise, because without 300, I don't feel like this movie will really hit that much value for the typical viewer, essentially. Especially given how much this definitely hinges off of 300, both in literature and movie-wise. But yeah, no, this was a fine movie. It certainly was a movie. Well done.
Alright, I'll conclude then. It's technically okay, but I have reserves. Like on the positive, it manages to, untangle the continuity mess much better than that you would think it would with this kind of premise. There are a lot of movies which had to do less in terms of fitting in a canon and still manage to fuck up. So at the very least, this one manages to work out very fine in terms of fitting in. And if anything, like I said, it kind of would be interesting to see like a big cut movie that incorporates the first one into it. A la Bambi and Bambi 2. It kind of feels like it would be possible, But and again, props also to the returning actors, which managed to still look very fine despite every year passing. So kudos to that. The plot is technically more softer than the first one, but like I said, they had a bit of the hands tied and did not know much about. We only had the draft that Frank Miller was working on, and even so, they only adapted part of what the final product ended up being anyway. Which also has the advantage of this movie being definitely less racist towards the Persians, which is, relatively, something that can be appreciated a bit more. The villain also, Artemisia, despite being, definitely cemented as a villain, is given a very tragic backstory in the ways that only Frank Miller would probably do,
Sadly,
to make you understand.
sorry.
To make you understand why would she, be fueled by such rage, and she will not give up. Even it's incorporated in the end, Themistocles asked her to surrender, but that she wouldn't because that shaped her entire life, and is literally equivalent of PTSD. Of course, she's not gonna do it. You can understand that, Yes, Drova?
I was going to say, sadly, Frank Miller is far from the only writer to really write that kind of stuff.
True, but again, this being inspired by one of his work, it feels like a fingerprint still placed onto it, especially knowing the fact that Zack Snyder, has a huge hard-on for his work. So
far be it from me to excuse it, but I'll at least give him credit that he doesn't let that thing define her, at least. And, she rises above that stuff to the point where if there is sex, she wants to be the one calling the shots.
That being said, speaking of which, might as well talk about it now. The hate sex scene is just bizarre. Not necessarily a big leap or moment. You can understand what the movie is coming from. The idea is that to simulate what will be an actual fight between the two, but at the same time she's trying to seduce him, but it can come across as a bit goofy, and I've seen better hate sex. Just saying. Speaking of which, also, the rest of the special effects, I'm definitely more on the side of this. The blood, the bloom, and a lot of the CGI just doesn't plain work. I don't know what happened here, but the fact that a movie 7 years older than, this one managed to have better CGI, integrated with its practical effect has to say a lot, and especially of the state of Warner Bros. In the 2010s, between this, the Hobbit trilogy, and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, but it just hampers the presentation. I'm sorry. The score works a bit better in the second half than in the first, but it's still not quite there. I understand what Dave was coming from because the first movie score is kind of a cheat in all senses possible. But that's not, this is not the one that I'm gonna remember. I'm sorry, I kind of wish, Junkie XL managed to, give it still a bit of more of an imprint to it. It seems to be trying a bit more towards the end of the movie, but I don't think we're quite there just yet. I'm sorry. The acting is fine for the most part, except for, sadly, our main lead. Sorry, Themistocles' actor just kind of sucks. I do wonder if originally they considered Jason Statham for the role, because it kind of feels like the role he would have been doing, especially at the time, but they couldn't. So maybe they couldn't even get Luke Goss because he was busy with the Death Race movies. Who knows?
Would you say it's a literal "we have Leonidas at home" situation?
No, like I said, we're trying to still do something different because Themistocles has, a different way of thinking than Leonidas. The other was more arrogant, more, boisterous, while Themistocles wants to be a leader, but wants to be reasonable as well. But the problem is that it makes it come across almost as spineless, which, in the story clearly showcased that he's not. So it's a bit of a contradiction, unfortunately. So yeah. It's kind of a mess. I still enjoy most of it, but between the two, this is not the one that I'm gonna rewatch if I really have to. And I kind of get it why Warner Bros. Kind of gave up, even if this was a commercial success. Warner Bros. Just kind of quietly gave up. And these days, I can imagine Zaslav not particularly enthusiastic in reviving this. We'll see if Netflix has to do something about it, like Jova and Zack Snyder hinted or not. But that's it for this. Post-production addendum, just in case. Since while I was editing, I bothered trying to look at the actual finished result of the comic that Frank Miller was actually making. I might as well thought it was, nice enough to give you an update on this. First of all, you can kind of tell that the movie was based on a draft because it's only based on the first 2 issues of the comic, and a lot of the things like Artemisia are movie original. Like, and Themistocles actually looks older than the actor playing the movie.
Yeah,
but those are technically fine. It's from issue 3 when things get bad. Let's just say that Frank Miller still, when he made this, still was in his holy terror mood, because while explaining the backstory of Xerxes, as in how he rose to power, how he became the ruler of Persia and everything, yeah, it wasn't particularly flattering. Aside from the fact that the background characters, in Persia tends to be, the usual type of caricature that Frank would use in other circumstances, like the aforementioned Holy Terror. Xerxes himself, while similar to the movie in a lot of shots, in other cases is used in a contrast method, which makes him appear completely black with a visible pair of lips, like he's a blackface caricature of the 30s.
Okay.
Ouch.
Okay. I want to give Frank the benefit of a doubt and say that he did not mean for something that blatantly racist, but that being said, the terrible art style that he was touting with, which got so bad that eventually he had other artists doing his art for him, which honestly is probably for the best, did not help things, at all. And yeah, like I had mentioned earlier, this movie clearly just takes bits from the earlier half of this Xerxes series.
It kind of makes sense, considering, again, this comic came out in 2018, 4 years after the movie, and you can tell that, they just had the draft that he was working on.
And keep in mind, it pretty much ends dealing with Darius and Alexander the Great, so I kind of get why they would have left that out and are apparently saving it for its own third movie now as of 2023, supposedly.
My point to add this was just because in case, it might be noticed, because we genuinely didn't know until I were to look, we still appreciated the movie overall. The comic, in the way it's presented, in presentation, still sucks, the way it came out. The end. Next time, when we reprise with a proper movie that Zack Snyder directed, we're gonna see what happened on what he did after his new cut of Justice League, when he started to have a partnership with Netflix and did his own spiritual successor to his first work, the movie called Army of the Dead, starring people like Batista. So see you for that.
See you then.
Yeah.